On June 30th, 1908, a blast over the Tunguska River flattened over 800 square miles of forest. Trees snapped like toothpicks, wildlife vaporized, and yet no impact crater was ever found. Was it a meteor that exploded in the atmosphere or something more mysterious?
Over a century later, the Tunguska Event remains one of Earth's greatest unsolved explosions. What really happened in the heart of Siberia? Join us as we explore the theories behind the historic anomaly and uncover the truth, or maybe even more questions.
And welcome to Zumundous, episode 7. I'm Doolin.
And I'm Keith.
And we're going to get into some of the unsolved mysteries of history. History's mysteries, you might say. How was your Halloween, man?
Good.
Good? I'm full of shit. Like, we're doing this before Halloween.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I don't know.
But hopefully you tuned in and listened to our Halloween episode. And if not, why haven't you? Go back and listen to that. It's awesome. But yeah, let's talk about the Tunguska event or explosion, as it were.
Yeah, this is weird, wild stuff.
Yeah, this goes back over 100 years.
It does. 1908, June 30th.
June 30th, 1908. So this has kind of stumped scientists and historians for years. So let's set the scene here, and we'll break down exactly what happened that we know on that day. So Tunguska is a remote region in Siberia, sparsely populated, and of course in 1908 even less so, and largely covered by dense forests. So the explosion occurred near the river. It was about 7 something in the morning, I think, 17 a.m., June 30th, 1908. So relatively clear summer day with normal weather conditions in the area. And the locals who lived in that area, they're going about their daily routines. There's indigenous communities that lived there, the Evenki people. They were a nomadic tribe that lived in the region at the time, and some of them were the closest witnesses to this event, and they're people that were deeply connected to the land, and they reported an unusual phenomenon in the moments leading up to the explosion. So in terms of population density, due to the isolated nature of the area, there's no major settlements nearby, which resulted in few casualties despite the immense force of the explosion.
I believe they say three people passed away.
Three? Yep. All right. So, 3 people. It's a pretty remote region.
Right. There's also not a lot of eyewitnesses because of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what we do know, suddenly at 17:17 a.m., a bright fireball streaked across the sky, reportedly brighter than the sun, and could be seen by people by as far as 500 miles away. And then moments later, we had the explosion. This was a massive explosion that occurred in the atmosphere over the region around 3 to 6 miles above the Earth's surface. Now, the explosion released an energy estimated about 10 to 15 megatons.
That's a lot.
That's comparable to a nuclear explosion, and this is prior to the bomb was the creation of the nuclear bomb.
Yes, they had not been invented
yet.
Yeah,
exactly. So, but as is the case with an explosion of that magnitude, with 10 to 15 megatons, you're going to have a massive shock wave, and that is exactly what happened with this event. Now, the shock wave from the blast flattened an area of about 2,000 square kilometers, or about 800 square miles of forest.
That's a lot.
That's a huge area.
It's a massive region.
Knocked down an estimated 80 million trees in the area.
That's wild.
And the force of the explosion was so intense that it broke windows and knocked people to the ground in the villages nearby up to 40 miles away.
Wow.
So this was like a nuclear explosion minus the radiation.
It's an immense amount of power.
Yeah, like 40 miles away, and you get knocked down. Probably ruptured some eardrums too, if I had to guess.
I would imagine so.
But the few witnesses that we did have for this event, they described a searing heat from the explosion. Trees in the vicinity of the blast were stripped of branches and bark.
That makes sense.
And fires ignited all across the landscape near the explosion itself. And I'm sure you saw this in your research, there was an impact site for this. So despite the devastation, no impact crater was ever found. Instead, the epicenter was marked by a strangely scorched but still standing group of trees pointing to the explosion happening in midair, which, trees grow up. But it was weird because like all around the trees were flattened, but at the epicenter, they were still standing.
Yeah. Which would lead you to think that the force went out and not down or something like that.
Yeah, which is strange, right? Because you think a blast
strange.
would go in all directions, including down.
Right.
So there's very few eyewitness accounts of this, but I think one of the most famous eyewitness accounts of this is from Semyonov, if I have his name correctly, Semyon Semyonov.
Okay.
And he was in the nearby village of Venvara. So this is about 40 miles away. And he's one of the key eyewitnesses for, 40 miles away. That's a good little stretch.
It's a bit of distance.
But he reported seeing the sky split in two, as he reported saying, and a great fire covering the sky, followed by a powerful shockwave that threw him to the ground and shattered his windows.
Wow. 40 miles away. That's wild. Yeah. So I've definitely read about the flash producing a billowing cloud per Wikipedia on this particular one, followed by a pillar of fire that casts red light on the landscape. But that's not the only place that here, let me just finish this. The pillar split into two and then faded, turning to black. And then a sound, about 10 minutes later, there's a sound similar to artillery fire. Now, artillery did exist in that time frame in 1908.
Sure, yeah.
So it's funny that they reference that because it's like, I don't know how much artillery is being fired out and people, are accustomed to hearing it, in their regular lives or whatever. That being said, I've also heard that it was a giant, orange pillar, like almost like a beam or like a pillar of fire that caused the explosion. Kind of weird that they all kind of reference that pillar of light, which could be indicative of certain cosmic events.
It could be, and we'll get into some speculation on that.
Yeah.
So there's some accounts from other areas as well. Witnesses up to hundreds of miles away reported hearing thunderous sounds and feeling the earth shake, even though they didn't see the fireball itself, but the explosion was heard across Siberia and even as far away as the UK and Indonesia. That's a long stretch,
really
man.
Far,
This is a massive explosion that happened. So let's get into some of the global events here. We'll just touch on it real quick. As I said, people across Europe and Asia reported unusual atmospheric events, including strange glowing skies, and some areas experienced bright nights for several days afterwards, thought to be caused by the dust particles thrown into the atmosphere by this event.
That could be in like some reflection or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, you stir up the atmosphere, you kick some things up, it catches in the light. I'm not a scientist or a meteorologist by any stretch, but it would stand to reason that there's particles in the sky. It gets caught by by the light,
regular light that's coming from the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that.
But this has led to a lot of speculation because, of course, in 1908, they didn't have the resources to really research it back then. But we'll talk a little bit about kind of the theories from the time, and then we'll fast forward a little bit into the theories.
I got some weird ones.
Yeah, it gets kind of wild. But so for the theories of the time, and here's the thing: is no scientific expeditions to the Tunguska site. Tunguska.
Yeah.
Took place for nearly 20 years, and this is partly like we said, it was a remote location, and also at the time, we were kind of ramping up for World War I at the point. The Russian Revolution. You got to think. I think I'm pretty sure that's when the Romanov dynasty was close to being overthrown by revolution.
Tsar.
Yeah. The ensuing civil war. The Soviet Academy of Sciences first sent a geologist named Leonid A. Kulik on an expedition to the site in 1921. So this is a long time before they finally went to go investigate this thing.
Yep.
But the area proved it was so remote, it was inaccessible that he couldn't reach it. And it wasn't until 1927, so 6 years, 6 years later, he actually got there and reaching it. And even though at this point 19 years had passed, the area still had the signs of the explosion.
Absolutely.
So in his observations and 3 subsequent expeditions, he described a butterfly-shaped area of destruction, 830 square miles, with an estimated 80 million trees, as I said earlier, knocked over. Now, near the epicenter, you had the strange trees that were singed but still standing upright. And some of the, we'll speculate on that, because we would say that an explosion would go in all directions, right? But the prevailing theory is that the mid-air explosion vaporizing the object, and later expeditions did find microparticles indicating an extraterrestrial origin. Which, if it is from, and when I say extraterrestrial, I don't mean like alien UFOs. I just mean anything that came from space.
Well, it could be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about alien life. Extraterrestrial just means from outside of Earth.
Right.
But at that point, they didn't have enough evidence to determine if it was an asteroid or a comet. And a lot of scientists today believe that it was an asteroid that basically just rained destruction on Siberia in 1908. And in 2016, the UN proclaimed June 30th as International Asteroid Day to raise awareness about asteroids and effects of, basically like planetary defense. Like, hey, this happened once. We came close to
the dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, the dinosaurs, obviously. So, meteorite impact hypothesis, which was in early speculation at that point, they believed that a meteorite had crashed into the Tunguska forest, and given the destruction and accounts of a fireball seemed like a reasonable explanation. But the strange thing is there wasn't an impact crater, which left a lot of researchers puzzled by that.
Right. A lack of an impact crater would dictate that it exploded above this. And there's a couple reasons for this. So, you've said asteroid, comets, meteors, meteorites, all that kind of stuff. So there's a big difference between all these things. And mostly it has to do with their, I was going to say genetic makeup, their makeup, right? Their geological makeup. Asteroids are rocky objects. They orbit the sun. They're way, way bigger. I believe an asteroid has to be a mile across or something like that, like just to get the size to be called that. Like the whole asteroid belt between Jupiter, Mars, all that good stuff. Comets are usually made of like ice, gas, frozen gases, dust, rocks as well. And comets are, when you see them in space, they are not just a stagnant rock floating around. They've got a big tail that's burning off and all that kind of good stuff. Meteor, right? It would be a shooting star, like a traditional shooting star. They're burning up as they go through the atmosphere to Earth. And then a meteorite is a piece of that.
Right,
which actually survives all the way to the ground. I've seen meteorites; they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
like space.
Well, I think you see a shooting star in the sky, and like, what would they say? Like, they're usually like no bigger in size than like a baseball or something like that. Yeah, I mean, but it's just, but they just burn so bright that you can see it in the night sky.
Yeah.
So I think if this thing was like a sizable thing coming through, like if
it must have been big.
It must have been bright.
And there's a couple of theories that why would it explode? And an asteroid made it through, on several occasions or an asteroid or, meteors have made it through the atmosphere
several times.
Actually impacted big craters, that kind of stuff. We see them all. They put those big telescopes in them and things like that. Radio telescopes.
It's like they always say, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. Like eventually we're going to get another extinction level asteroid.
Possibly.
But in the span of time, like, in our lifetime, maybe not, well, probably not.
Bruce Willis is going to go up there and
Bruce
take care
Willis
of it.
and Ben Affleck are going to go take care of that for us.
They're going to save the day, so it's okay. So
don't want to close my eyes. Sorry.
Classic. We like to have fun here. So some people do think it was a comet rather than an asteroid, because if it was like a big snowbally, not very dense, lots of material, they would explode, and just kind of dissipate the energy. Well, the argument to that is that if it was truly like, they call it like a snowball, I guess, effect, that it would blow up tens of kilometers away from, higher in the atmosphere and that not cause that kind of level of damage, right?
Right.
I mean, unless it was really big, I don't know. And then on the wild side, some people think it was a UFO.
Yeah.
Which I know it sounds kind of wild. They went up there and they found a bunch of material afterwards in 27. And then again, they found little bits of metal and
well, I mean, yeah, but metal, I know, but the funny thing is metal comes from space. Like, it's like the Earth isn't the only place that metal comes from.
Right,
you know?
right.
And
so, I mean, that subscribes to the more traditional explanation.
Yeah, so that was the extraterrestrial intervention. Due to the bizarre nature of the event, UFO enthusiasts have long speculated, they love that shit, have long speculated that the explosion was a result of an alien spacecraft crashing into Earth and exploding in the atmosphere.
Not just an alien spacecraft. A mothership.
Ooh.
Because it was massive.
Yeah.
Right?
But of course, like there's zero evidence to support that.
No, and somebody said they found some stuff up there later on, right? That they found I guess you would say alien made, machinery, right? And stuff like that. But they think that was the fifth Vostok test flight is what they found pieces of. And this is years and years later.
Yeah, okay.
So, and that flight was on December 22, 1960, and it was carrying 2 dogs into space. It was a competition for the Apollo program.
Okay.
And NASA's, got all this stuff. You can look at the definitive history of the space race, all that good stuff. And it said that payload landed about 3,500 kilometers downrange from the launch site in one of the most remote and inaccessible areas of Siberia, the region that's all near that river, right? The Tunguska River.
We're going to mess it up the entire episode.
Destroying this. And close to that impact point. So if anybody did find anything, they possibly found a piece of an actual space shuttle, but it's explainable because it came from Earth, right?
Okay.
Yeah, which is interesting, but they're not the only people who subscribe to this. Like,
so there's did you hear the there's also a volcanic or gas explosion hypothesis.
Oh, okay.
So this is actually stating that like there was nothing coming from the sky at all. This is actually all from within Earth,
like a massive methane deposit.
Right. So an early explanation for it was that a large explosion occurred due to a natural gas pocket beneath the Earth's surface, which could have caused a massive eruption. However, there's no volcanic activity or in the area or any indication that such underground gases were released.
Could that explain the giant pillar of light if there was like fire coming up as opposed to going down?
That could be, but I think there would be evidence of like volcanic ash in the area, though. You know,
well, if it was a true eruption,
yeah.
I don't know.
So that was, but that was one of the older theories. There, of course, was the comet hypothesis, which you touched on. So I don't need to go into it again.
Yeah, the comic's cool.
And then of course the asteroid airburst, which is, I think that's the most commonly accepted theory today. But there was also a second cometary impact hypothesis. And some scientists to this day still continue to argue for the comet hypothesis. Given that a comet is made mostly of ice and dust, it could have exploded in the atmosphere without leaving a crater, which kind of makes sense.
It seems to make sense.
Yeah. So
and there's some rock in there too.
Yeah,
they found little bits of it.
And this theory is supported by the fact that the area showed no significant metal deposits that you would typically see with asteroids.
Right. There wasn't a big core laying around or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pretty weird.
There's electromagnetic theories that dive into this thing. So more speculative ideas have suggested that the event was caused by electromagnetic phenomenon such as a collision with a form of antimatter or black hole. This is wild.
I did hear about the black hole thing. Yeah.
So, but
like several black holes at the same time.
Yeah, but it's like, but how does that happen on Earth? And for that reason, like these don't have a lot of credence or weight to it. I don't think they're kind of seen as fringe theories.
Right.
Speaking of fringe theories,
like the UFO isn't fringe enough?
Oh, you want to hear one wilder than a UFO?
Of course, yeah.
Nikola Tesla's involvement.
Oh, he definitely did that.
He totally did it.
Totally.
So a more niche conspiracy claims that Nikola Tesla caused the explosion by testing his wireless transmission of energy experiments.
But he didn't do it in Russia.
That we know of.
Second antenna?
Could be.
I don't know.
But some believe that his theories about harnessing Earth's electrical field for free energy went awry, leading to the destruction. But once again, speculative, no evidence for that.
And he didn't admit to it.
You know, it's so funny. Like Nikola Tesla is really at the center of a lot of conspiracy theories,
He's
man.
at the center of all kinds of wild stories.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Neat. I mean, in pop culture, I mean, we got cars named Tesla now, like cars and stuff. He's all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so this event remains one of the most enigmatic disasters of the 20th century.
It's very, very interesting, and it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, and the scientific consensus really kind of leans more towards an asteroid or a comet explosion in the Earth's atmosphere, which really kind of seems to it makes the most sense.
A natural explanation.
The absence of a crater in strange eyewitness accounts kind of keep the door open for speculation. But it's still more than a century later, and this event kind of still continues to intrigue and elude scientists and mystery seekers.
Yeah. On the old show, we used to rate highly probable, possible, things like this for.
I mean, this definitely happened.
It happened, right?
I mean, this is a historical account. It's just like what caused it is the question.
I'm going to lean towards one of the scientific explanations on this one, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. So, whether the true cause, this explosion, I feel like it serves as like a powerful reminder of Earth's vulnerability to cosmic events.
The awesome force of the cosmos.
Yeah. I mean, like we're vulnerable, man. We have a magnetic
field that protects us from a lot of that stuff,
But we're on this blue rock, and it's in the middle of nothing.
Through at
30,000 miles per hour, and that it might come into contact with other stuff out there.
We are Captain Kirk.
We are, man.
Yeah.
We're also traveling through time and space. Time, like
Indeed.
Present time. We're in the future now.
Keeps on slipping.
And now into the future. Listen, just fly like the eagle. So I'm going to pose this question. You guys, do you have some theories on this? What do you think happened on that fateful day in 1908? Let us know your thoughts as we dive into more mysteries of our world, and we'll talk about it on the show if you guys send us an email.
Absolutely.
We're at Zumundo, not Zumundous, but Zumundo, still named for our old podcast, at outlook.com. So
yeah,
I think that's going to wrap up this episode. Come on back next week. We've got another fresh topic to talk about.
Like, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yeah, like, subscribe. Smash that notification bell. Smash that like button.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. For Zumundous, I'm Doolin.
And I'm Keith.
And we'll see you next time, guys. Have a Zumundous week.
Thought you were going to do the Casey Kasem voice there.
I'm Casey Kasem. Yeah. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.